صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد، رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا يا ذا الجلال والإكرام وزدنا علما يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, today we're going to be discussing Salah, the greatest gift to believers. The greatest gift Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give to any human being is the gift of Iman. And after the gift of Iman, the next greatest gift is the gift of Salah. Now, anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for us has got a benefit in two dimensions. It has a physical benefit in this world, and then it has a spiritual benefit. Now, this talk, inshallah, is going to be in two parts. The next part is going to be the spiritual dimensions of Salah from the book of Ibn Qayyim, the inner dimensions of Salah. And obviously, the privilege to stand in the company of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the Prophet ﷺ says that when you pray, it is as if you are before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no privilege greater than the privilege to be in the company of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the spiritual benefits of Salah, those are the ultimate benefits of Salah. But there are physical benefits, and in learning those physical benefits, we come to understand the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We come to understand the sophistication of His technology, of His creation. We come to understand the way He has honored the servant of His. And so, in learning the scientific benefits of the actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded upon us, we first of all come to develop a deep respect or khushu' of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And obviously we know this is the main ingredient in Salah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, indeed are successful the believers, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, those who have khushu' in their Salah. So we seek knowledge in order to gain this khushu', because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء, the ones that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ones that have knowledge. And even Ata'illah, he says that the purpose of knowledge, or rather the fruit of knowledge, is the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is why we learn to develop an awe for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, A, and B, to develop a sense of gratitude for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because only when we realize the enormity of the favor, then do we give it its due appreciation. So, just to re-emphasize Salah, it is the most important pillar of Islam after Iman. It's the only pillar which was enjoined not on the earth, but above 7 heavens. So important the Salah was. The Salah was not delivered by Jibreel alayhi salam like all the other commandments. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the Prophet sallallahu to him, to himself, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then He bestowed this gift of Salah upon this ummah. Now, Salah is the most important injunction in this deen. Prophet ﷺ says, Miftahul Jannati is Salah. The key to paradise is Salah, and the key to Salah is wudu. And another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-ahdu alladhi baynana wa baynahum Salah. That the covenant between us and them is Salah. فَمَنْ تَرَكَهَا فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. Whoever abandons Salah, he is disbelieved. And the last words of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as-salah, as-salah wa ma malakat aymanukum. The salah, and those in authority under you. Imagine this, when the Prophet ﷺ was leaving this dunya, he could have chose to give us a nasiha or anything, but he chose to tell us the salah, and he repeated it. So this is the importance of salah in this tradition of ours. Now, Ibn Rushd, the famous Qadi of Cordoba, he says that the word salah comes from the word sila, which means connection. And so salah is connecting us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we're going to see, inshallah, that it connects us to something else. And that's a connection to the earth. So, actually in connecting yourself to the earth, you actually connect yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I'm going to show you this video, which will give you an understanding of the effectiveness of electromagnetic frequency, and then we're going to discuss how we can attain what this man is talking of. When I showed my wife the video, she said, but that's what I'm looking for. So let's see, inshallah, and then we'll see how we can acquire it.
I am more excited about this show than any other we have done this season, because today we are changing the practice of medicine, and you get the help. Now, if you've tried everything to ease your back pain, your neck pain, foot pain, arthritis pain, then this is the show for you. There's a revolutionary cure for pain that few doctors know about, because it's not a new pill or surgery. It uses moving magnets, energy waves that change the way your body copes with pain. Wait till you see what we found. You may not realize it, and you certainly can't feel it, but inside each of us is a raging electrical storm. A biological whirlwind that controls every cell, every nerve, every muscle, every thought. How you experience pleasure, and even how you experience pain. What if you could harness this powerful force field inside of you to feel better, sleep longer, and most miraculous of all, ease your chronic aches and pains? That's the promise of magnetic therapy, which uses the power of magnetic energy to redirect electrical impulses to the areas where you feel pain, so relief and healing can begin. The FDA has already cleared pulsed magnetic therapy for fusing broken bones, treating severe untreatable depression, and now to treat post-operative pain and swelling. It sounds like science fiction, but is magnetic therapy for real? Are we finally on the brink of a whole new frontier to reduce, even erase, your pain? Now, just to be clear, we are not talking about static magnets like the kind you stick on the fridge. This is pulsed electromagnetic fields. It's pulsing moving energy, much more powerful than static magnets. So here's how it could work for your pain. All right, so this is really important. I want you to understand it well. Here's what researchers say magnetic fields are doing inside the body. Inside this mat, there are electrical coils. And when electricity passes through there, it creates a magnetic field that moves through the body. And it whispers to the 75 trillion cells in your body. And it goes deep into your body, places where sports screens and heating pads could never reach. For example, down around the spine, where that red, angry area is. Now, the magnetic field turns on, and when it does it, it activates these ions, these charged particles. And there are proteins in there, and there are signals in there, stirs these things up, and these charged particles bring in nutrients, but they also begin to influence things like blood supply. Now, when the blood vessels are going in here, the red blood cells are actually stacked. See, they're stacked like that? They're not supposed to be stacked. When they're irritated, that happens. So when you pass magnetic fields through there, that yellow line, it opens up the blood vessel, it breaks apart these red cells. They're not stacked like coins, so you can get deep healing, better oxygen supply, so the healing process takes place. You don't just feel better, you are better. And that's an important advance for us. One that we haven't been really practicing until today, because today we're going to change that.
Okay, so this is something all of us need. I mean, as we're sitting here, everyone's got some pain that they need cured, you know. So where can we get this device? The reality is we have it already. It's the Earth, and it's the Earth's magnetic field. Now, just something about the Earth's magnetic field. It protects us from the solar flares or the heat of the sun. It's one of the reasons why we have surface water. If there was no magnetic field, we wouldn't have water. In fact, our planet would be like Mars. So this is something we should be making shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every single day, that there's this magnetic field that's protecting us against the sun. If we don't learn about it, you can't make shukr for it. And this is part of the wisdom of learning this. So basically, the Earth has got a metal core and it's got a liquid metal around it. And remember, the Earth is spinning. Okay? It's spinning at 1,700 kilometers per hour. So you've got this metal spinning all the time, generating a current. And then it's still tilted at 23.5 degrees. So it's spinning this current in all directions. So basically, the magnetic field looks like this. It's like a big ocean that's enveloping the Earth. In all directions, we have this magnetic field. Now, if you look at this, this is the sun and the sun's solar winds that come towards the Earth, and you can see how the magnetic field is actually affected by the sun. So our Earth's magnetic field is affected by the sun and by the interplanetary fields. So in this picture, you can see that in daytime, the magnetic field in the part of the Earth that's day looks different to the one that's night. And because we human beings, we beings of light, we have photosensors on our skin. We're taking the light from the sun and converting it into vitamin D. So we're constantly affected by the sun, and we're affected by the magnetic field. So it means we need a system that is constantly adjusting to the sun and also to the Earth's magnetic field, if really we as human beings want to be healthy on this planet. So the other thing about this magnetic field is scientists have come to understand that this is like a massive Wi-Fi zone. Because of these electromagnetic fields, it's literally connecting everything together. This could be one of the mechanisms. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, he says in the hadith, that person that teaches some beneficial knowledge, even the fish in the rivers and the ants in their holes make dua for him. You know, scientists are beginning to believe that it's these fields that are even the basis for the sixth sense, for telepathy. But what we learn from this is that the sun, the moon, the earth, and all life are all connected via these fields. So if we just look for science, what science is beginning to discover now is that the Earth's frequency resonates at the same frequency as our heart rhythms and brain waves. And they're beginning to discover now in the solar activity, if you practice some kind of techniques, you know, you can mitigate the influences of the sun effects on you. We know from 1400 years ago, we were taught that when there's eclipse, for example, we pray Salah al-Khusuf, which is something that protects you against whatever is coming from this, the way of the sun. So this is a technology they're catching up with. This is a technology that came from the future, was given to us in the past. And we will be discussing whatever we're discussing, but remember, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us is so much more sophisticated. We'll just be scratching the surface of what the benefits actually are. You can see here in America, the hospitals increase staff during full moons to compensate for an increase of patients. And we know we've been taught to fast the 3 days. Ayyamul Bid, the 3 days of the full moon. Science beginning to discover that our body rhythms can basically synchronize to the rhythms of the earth. Now, the important thing for us is Schumann's resonance. You know, we discussed this when we discussed light. Now, Schumann was a German physicist who basically discovered that the earth has a frequency, and its resonant frequency is 7.83 megahertz. His successor at the Munich University discovered that our brain waves can synchronize with these frequencies. And at Düsseldorf University, they took students and put them into bunkers and shielded them from the magnetic field, and they started to develop migraines and depressions. And when they exposed them back to 7.83 megahertz, all the rhythms, you know, the balance started returning to the body. Now, in 2011, Luc Montagnier, that's the man that discovered the AIDS virus, won the Nobel Prize for it. He took DNA and put it into a test tube, then took the DNA out, and then exposed that test tube to 7.83 megahertz. And the DNA started to grow in that water, almost like this is the frequency of life. You know, and I just thought of the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, the last person that comes out of Jannah, Allah will dip him in this water, special water, river of life, and then put him on the side and he'll grow like a tree. You know, so the world is far more advanced and intricate than we believe. In fact, this man, the scientific world has declared war on him, but he has published his results and they can't disprove it. So today, we were just speaking earlier, we're living in a polluted electromagnetic environment. We got cell phones and radio waves, we got all the TV signals, cordless phones. You know, in addition to the pollution, the entire spectrum is polluted. So the need to remove this pollution is ever greater now than before. But we've become more insulated now than ever before. This is just a study they did in America, and they were doing a study taking into account the relationship between the discovery of rubber soles on shoes and diabetes, for example. And you can see the graph. As we start to use more rubber soles, we're starting to see more incidence of metabolic illness. Because leather soles can hurt you, but rubber soles, they insulate you. So our carpets are becoming thicker and the buildings are becoming higher. And everything is taking us away from the earth. You know, and the Prophet ﷺ says, the earth is your mother, walk gently upon her. So, a very important thing now about magnetism is something called oxidation and free radicals. Now, this is something very important for all of us to understand. Free radicals basically something that your white cells produce. It's a molecule that your white blood cells produce in order to combat viruses and bacteria in your body. So when you're sick or you have some kind of inflammation, your red blood cells will produce free radicals and they will basically tear up the bacteria and the viruses. But when you breathe, oxygen is a molecule that has two unpaired electrons. So when you're breathing in, when you're taking in food, when you're exercising, when you're smoking, when you're eating carcinogenic foods, fried foods, anything that has positive charge, it's looking for negative charge inside of your body. Now, your body keeps a store of negative electrons. We call it antioxidants or vitamins. So what happens when positive charge comes in? The body will supply some negative charge and neutralize. But if you don't have enough negative charge, then it starts to cause disease inside of your body. So free radicals, basically, if you don't have enough negative charge, it has like a chain effect. It will steal two from here, and then that one will steal another two from there and from that one, until it affects all the cells inside of your body. So when we look at it, you know, oxidative stress or free radicals, it affects your brain, it affects your heart and your arteries, it gives it cancer, diabetes, inflammation, anxiety, asthma, all kinds of intestinal illnesses and joints, arthritis, all those kind of sicknesses are as a result of oxidative stress. So the important things of the Schumann's resonance is that at any given time there are about 2,000 thunderstorms around the earth, generating about 100 lightning strikes per minute. And this keeps the earth's surface negatively charged. Now, negative charge is something we call antioxidants. You go to this camp, you buy your omega-3 and vitamin E and vitamin B. All this is basically designed to neutralize positive charge inside of your body. Now, antioxidants we can get from food, we can get from the sun, and the most abundant is from the earth itself. By just putting your feet on the ground, you soak up all the negative charge. So let's see what science is saying, what earthing does for you. It reduces inflammation, which is a major cause of cancer and heart disease. Grounding thins the blood, so it makes it less viscous, it flows easier. It increases the charge on the surface of the red blood cells. So instead of the blood cells clumping together, they pushed apart because of the charge. So it allows the blood to flow easier. This lowers your blood pressure, and it also makes it more difficult for your blood to clot. So because of the lower blood pressure and the better flow, you have a decreased risk of heart disease and you have better cardiovascular health. And because it reduces inflammation, it also has an effect on your sugar levels, so diabetes. And your autonomous nervous system is basically the automatic part of your body. You know, it basically helps to calm it down, to bring you into a state of calmness. Now, this is from a doctor of biology. I just took his statement as he said it because it's so profound. He says, "It looks to me, from my study of biophysics and cell biology, like the body is designed with a semiconductor fabric that connects everything in the body, including inside of every cell. So the whole fabric is basically an antioxidant defense system that is in every part of our body. We have this material called ground substance, which is part of the connective tissue. It goes everywhere in the body. It's a gel material and it stores electrons. So that if you go barefoot, you will take in electrons and your body will store them. And they will be available at any point where you might have an injury or any point where a free radical might form." Now, we have a legacy. We have the sunnah of earthing. You eat according to the sunnah on the floor. You sleep on the floor. But if you look at the masjid, for example, it is the ultimate center of earthing. Because you earthing all the parts of your body, sitting down. In the masjid, this is what we're doing. We're constantly connected to the earth. And masjid is the place of sujood. It's the place where you earth your body. So earthing has all these benefits. The first benefit is that science has found that if you put your head onto the ground and the frequency of the ground is 7 megahertz, your brain literally can entrain with the frequency of the earth. So your brain cycles can literally come down to 7 to 12 megahertz, and this they call the age, or rather the phase of creativity and genius and tranquility. So this is basically what Salah can do as far as your brain is concerned. Then in terms of your body, and I just got an arrow there because this is a study published in September 2017, and these are all scientists, biophysicists, doctors of biology. And look what they're saying. They're saying, could such an intervention be located right beneath your feet? Emerging evidence shows that contact with the earth, whether being outside barefoot or indoors, connected to grounded conductive systems, may be a simple, natural, and yet profoundly effective environmental strategy against stress and your autonomic nervous system dysfunction. Inflammation, pain, poor sleep, disturbed heart rate variability, hypercoagulable blood, and many common health disorders, including cardiovascular disease. The research done to date supports the concept that grounding or earthing the human body may be an essential element in the health equation, along with sunshine, clean air and water, nutritious food, and physical activity. So science is beginning to discover this is something that's essential for the human body. Now, at the Himalayan Institute of Medical Sciences, they found that the eyes and the pineal gland are most sensitive to electromagnetic frequency. Now, the pineal gland is something that produces melatonin. Melatonin is what your brain needs to fall asleep. And one of the things melatonin does is it basically tears up free radicals. So it calms your body down and it weakens the effect of cortisol and stress on your body. Now, just remember this. They're saying that the eyes and the pineal gland, we're going to come back to the eyes later on. I think this will be interesting for Adil, inshallah. And also, it aids in circadian rhythm and sleep, which we're going to come to. So what you're getting the sense is that earthing basically brings calm to the body. It's starting to calm down the brain and calm the body. Now, the important thing is, there's a neuroscientist, Dr. Dan Siegel, and he gives a nice example. He says that if you want to understand the brain and emotion, he uses what he calls the hand model of the brain. So he says, look at your hand And this basically is the spinal column. And then this will be your lower part of the brain, your R-stem brain, which controls your automatic functions. You know, hunger, thirst, and your heart, digestion. And then your thumb, you put it in, and this is your emotional system, the limbic system. And this is covered by your cortex. So this front part of the brain, which is this front part, is basically covering the emotional part of your brain. When you get angry, this is basically what happens. You're exposing the emotional part of your brain. When you're in control of your senses, this is what happens. So when we are earthing, we're putting exactly this part of the head down that is shielding the emotional part. But in addition to that, we have to put the nose onto the ground, because the Prophet ﷺ said that person that doesn't put his nose bone down in the sujood is guilty of pride and arrogance. So the nose is connected, as you can see in the picture, to the olfactory bulb. You know, it's the smelling cortex of the brain, and that is directly connected to your limbic system, which is the amygdala and the hippocampus, which is the parts of the brain that are responsible for fear and for anxiety. So you're putting literally down the two parts that are directly connected to fear and anxiety, and you're increasing the blood flow and decreasing the amount of free radicals in those parts of the brain. So literally, you're giving yourself this calming effect from a scientific point of view. Now let's see the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ says, Ya Bilal, aqim as-salah, arihna biha. Oh Bilal, you know, give the iqamah and come and comfort us with the salah. Those are not just normal words. The Prophet ﷺ, Allah says, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. He doesn't speak of his own desire. We should look at every single utterance of the Prophet ﷺ as some great treasure that has some great deal of wisdom and sophistication behind it. Now, this brings balance inside of the body, and we understand now from our previous lectures that when the brain is balanced and the body is balanced, it allows you to behave in a balanced manner. It, like a car, you know, it puts the balancing and alignment so the car doesn't deviate. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ. When you're balanced, then you will be saved from immodesty and wrong action. And this is the purpose of salah. If we were praying the way we were supposed to pray, then this would be the consequence. Because as I'm talking, I know everyone's thinking, I'm praying for 30 years and this is not happening to me. But there is something missing. And when we get to the spiritual part, we'll see that we have to be praying this prayer, not like it's a burden. How many of us will say, let me just make namaz quickly so we can go shopping. But salah is something that's calming you down, but we want to do it in the flow of the stress and the pressure. How is it going to benefit us? Because salah needs that ingredient called khushu'. Because remember, in addition to the scientific parts, you're standing in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the owner of light. Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. You want the light, you're going to have to get it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will have to stand in front of him the way he expects. You know, we say, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih. You should have this taqwa of Allah is demanded of you. So let's look at this now. We're sitting in this ocean of electromagnetism. You can see that the earth is enveloped by a river of energy, all right, which has all these benefits of health for us. And so it's like a river, you know, that's surrounding the earth, or an ocean. And this, the Prophet ﷺ says, if there was a river at the door of any one of you, and he took a bath in it 5 times a day, would you notice any dirt on it? They said, no, not a trace of dirt would be left. The Prophet ﷺ said that is the example of the 5 prayers, which blots out evil deeds. Now understand that we say that when you commit an evil deed, it has a spiritual effect, and it also has a physical effect. وَإِنْ أَسَأْتُمْ فَلَهَا, Allah says, if you do something evil, it's against yourself. And we know from anger and ingratitude that when you display any of these negative things, it has a chemical effect inside of your body. So when we do earthing, literally what it's doing is it's undoing the effect of that sin inside of the body, and then it's undoing it spiritually because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala erases the sin. So when you understand this electromagnetism, anytime you feel you want to cleanse yourself, you just connect yourself to the earth. This is the beauty of this gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Now let's just look quickly at a short video. This is a cardiologist. I'm just trying to show you that we're not talking about some kind of pseudoscience. This is fast becoming mainstream science.
Well, basically, earthing is putting your bare feet on the ground or walking with leather shoes on, concrete, grass, brick, even a beach for that matter. Although I'd rather see you walk barefoot. Or it's sleeping with an earthing pad or an earthing sheet. What does earthing do? Whenever you put your feet in contact with Mother Earth, you're soaking in electrons. Remember this, the Earth is struck by lightning thousands of times, particularly around the equator. And the Earth is rich in electrons. When we walk on the Earth, or when we sleep grounded, we get these electrons into the body. And these electrons act like antioxidants, and they neutralize free radical positive charge in the body. When we sleep grounded or walk grounded, we're also getting stress reduction. We're attenuating the autonomic nervous system, and we're stimulating the parasympathetic limb, and we're improving heart rate variability. There's lots of heart research to show that grounding is good for the heart, including thinning the blood. I wrote the paper myself. I did the research myself. So I love earthing and grounding. It's something that we have to put into our daily day. Try to ground every day for at least a half hour, or at least.
Imagine that. They're taking 1400 years to just start to discover what we've already had all this time in the past. Now, remember we said that these magnetic fields are like a free Wi-Fi. And this is what scientists are beginning to believe or start to call the global brain, because it's connecting everything. And in one study they did in Lithuania, they took medical students over 31 days and monitored them at different times of the day, changed the electromagnetic fields that they were exposing them to. And they found that their heart rate variability. The heart rate variability is the distance or the time difference between breathing in and breathing out. And they found it was affected by geomagnetic activity, that means the position of the sun. It was affected by the Earth's magnetic field. But more importantly, it was even affected by each other. People, those students, they were affecting each other's heart rate variability. And their conclusion is that they say research strongly suggests that solar and magnetic influences affect a wide range of human health and behavioral processes, with the cardiovascular and nervous systems being the most clearly affected. So let's just look what we're discussing so far. We have Salah, and Salah is basically connecting us to the earth. Now in Salah, we know once you're ready, you've made your wudu, you're standing on the ground, the next thing you have to do is face the Qibla. And we're going to see that there's nothing mundane in Salah. Every single thing has its purpose. Now, for thousands of years, human beings knew the benefits of magnetism. But in the last 100 or so years, Western science basically turned their back and they ridiculed anyone that spoke about magnetism. But now with the modern technology, scientists have found that almost every migratory animal, from fish to birds, have an inbuilt navigation system. In fact, they found lobsters and worms and frogs and snails have it. And they're beginning to find that one of the mechanisms that allow them to navigate using the Earth's magnetic field is something called magnetite. And they've discovered that human beings have magnetite in their brains and in the heart. So literally, we have this magnetoreception hardwired into us. So you can see in this picture, the sharks, basically they sense this field and they know exactly where they're moving towards. This is why they can travel, sharks, for example, from False Bay in Cape Town to Australia and then come back the next year without any problem. And the same thing with the birds and all these animals. Now, Professor Joe Kirschvink of Caltech, California Institute of Technology, he was somebody that was trying to disprove that human beings have this magnetoreception. But as he was experimenting, he started finding that this is a reality. And he was able to build something called a Faraday cage, which is a compartment basically which shields you from electromagnetic frequency. And you can introduce your own frequency into it. And he found that when you put somebody in there, he's shielded from the Earth's frequency, you expose him to different frequencies, it literally has an effect on his body. Again, at the Himalayan Institute of Medical Science, they found that patients showed changes in their heart rate, blood pressure, and cortisol levels in relation to directional changes relative to the Earth's magnetic field. It means we tell you east and west and north, it starts to have an effect on you. They found that even the EEG, so that's the heart, right? That's the heart and the blood pressure and the cortisol, but even the brain is affected by the direction you turn the human being relative to the magnetic field. They found that meditation can help to better deal with the fluctuations in the magnetic field. Now imagine Salah, you got direction and you got meditation. It's the perfect strategy that fits in line with this technology. So let's just look at this verse in the Quran. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, He says, وَمِنْ حَيْثُ خَرَجْتَ فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. So for whenever you start on your journey, you should face Makkah in your prayers. وَحَيْثُ مَا كُنْتُمْ فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرَ. So wherever you are, this is where you should turn your face. لِأَلَّا يَكُونَ لِنَاسِ عَلَيْكُمْ حُجَّةٌ. So that people don't have any proof of the argument against you. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ. Except those who the wrongdoers amongst them. فَلَا تَخْشَوْا مَخْشَوْنِي. Don't fear them, fear me. But look at the ending. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِأُتِمَّ نِعْمَتِي عَلَيْكُمْ. Why do I want you to face this direction? So I can complete my favor upon you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. So that you can be guided. You know, we clearly see here that this is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now we know, we've now grounding ourselves to the earth, we're looking at direction, now we're going to look at times. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, indeed, prayer has been prescribed on the believers at fixed times. So we're going to look at the times of Salah and something called circadian rhythm. Now what is circadian rhythm? It's your body's own internal clock. In the brain, it's located in the hypothalamus. It's endogenous, means it's inbuilt, and it's automatic. It sets itself, this clock. It's entrained. That means if it starts to be exposed to some new kind of stimulus, it's going to entrain itself to that stimulus. And it's present in every cell in the body. Each single cell of the 75 to 100 trillion cells in your body has its own clock. And in bacteria, plants, and animals. And what they're beginning to find that cancer is actually a disruption of the body's internal clock. So let's look at this experiment. They basically took people and exposed them, measured their electromagnetic frequency over different times of the day. Now the red that you can see in the picture, what they found is that as the sun's heat becomes more intense, the photons in the body, you get increased photonic movement, which is corresponding to the free radicals in your body. Because as the day goes, your body starts to produce more free radicals. Now you can see in C, that's 10 o'clock in the morning, very little free radical or photonic emission. The next picture is D, that's 1 o'clock. That's almost like the time of Dhuhr. You can see the highest is E. And they're saying that happens at about 4 o'clock. Allah says, حَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى. And guard the prayer, the middle prayer. وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. And stand devoutly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then look at the next one, F. Now remember, these are not Muslims doing this, please. This is just scientists. The next one, F, is 7 o'clock in the evening, and then 10 o'clock at night. And then thereafter, the melatonin comes in, and then it starts to calm the body down, because remember, then there's very reduced solar activity. So you can see here, at the times of the day, when we can call it bad energy, is starting to increase, we actually starting to earth, literally to neutralize that. Now we say, what about the morning? You know, when we pray in tahajjud, you have the highest melatonin levels in your brain. So your body is calm. There's the least geomagnetic activity. It's actually the best time for your body to boost its defenses physically and obviously spiritually. And then Fajr, again the sun comes up, and let's just look at this. This is from an organic chemist. He says early morning sun exposure just after sunrise is infrared and red-rich light, and has very little UVB. You know, best time for vitamin D is 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So you will get poor vitamin D, but IR and red light is a photoperiod signal that jumpstarts your mitochondria, is basically the power factories of your cells. And it will start up your circadian rhythm. So literally you can set your body's clocks by these times of Salah. So this is just scientific articles I put there. The disruption of body's internal clock causes disruption of metabolic processes. So if you're trying to lose weight, your clock is very important. If you're diabetic, your clock is very important. If you want to avoid getting cancer, make dua and try and get your clock in order. So that's the thing of the times of Salah. We can see that the times of Salah also have a benefit for human beings. Now the next thing we're going to look at is movement. So first of all, we know you can see in this study, they're saying proper movement. This is in a science journal. Proper movement in Muslim prayer. Prayer ritual can reduce lower back pain. And then we know when you're going to sujood, it increases blood flow. In sajda, you strengthen the muscles in your shoulders. Sitting over your knees, they say, is a preventative measure for arthritis. There's all these physical benefits. But in the movements also we're going to look, this is photonic resonance. So you can see on the picture on your left-hand side, the blue picture, okay? This is a picture of a human face before grounding. And when you look at the one on the right-hand side and you start to see the red and the yellow, this is the increased blood flow after grounding. Now, for the women especially, if you're looking for cosmetic mitigation, this is excellent for preventing wrinkles and aging on your skin to boost the blood flow. So you need to spend more time in sujood. Now, according to a research done by the Public Library of Sciences, they said generally the fluctuation in photon counts over the body was lower in the morning than in the afternoon. Okay? And they said that the thorax abdomen emitted the lowest amount of photons. And remember, this is something we're not earthing in Salah, because it's the lowest. But they said the head region emitted the most over the day. And then they said, look at this one, it says spectral analysis. It showed that the front part of the leg, the right leg, the forehead and the palms have the highest photon emission. I mean, amazing. And then this is a picture of how they can now with biophotonics image the photons that your hands, for example, produce. But this Japanese scientist, he said that the hands are not the only parts of the body that shine light by releasing photons or tiny energized increments of light. It's not only the hands, but the forehead and the bottoms of the feet. So literally all the parts that we are earthing in Salah, science is starting to prove that there is some basis for this. Now, the next thing we're going to discuss is something called biophotonics. This was pioneered by a German physicist called Dr. Alfred Popp. Now, basically, I deleted most of the slides because I think it was going to take long and maybe a bit technical. But basically what he discovered is that the body, or any living cell for that matter, produces light, first of all. The light is about 1,000 times less intense than normal light. So you need very sensitive instruments. But every living cell, every living bacteria, animal, plant, or human being emits photons. But what he found is that if a cell was healthy, it emitted photons in the blue light range, on the visible spectrum to the color blue. And if it was diseased, it emitted photons towards the red spectrum. And now with biophotonics, they can literally find the spectral signature of any disease. Just by checking its light signature, they can tell you what disease it is. But what Dr. Fritz Popp did was, so here's a picture of his. He's taking a leaf and he's putting it into his photomultiplier. And you can see how the photons are emitting light. In another one, he took eggs from free-range chickens and one from cage-bred chickens, and he imaged them, and the free-range ones had far higher light than the cage-bred ones. Okay? So what he's been doing now is starting to treat cancer with light. Just like homeopathy, homeopaths, they use weakened forms of the virus to treat illness. They've now discovered that if you use less intense frequencies of light, you can actually heal the cells in the body. And so one of the ways they do it, they image the food, the plants, and then they see which plant matches the frequency of where your cells are corrupted, and then they start feeding you that food, for example. But what they've discovered basically is that cancer is a loss of coherent light or rhythm. Stress and mental illness like MS, that's getting too much of light. And other kinds of cancer is too little light. So here's the coherent light means good health. That's the example I gave you of the hen, eggs, and the food. And what they found, what he did was he took water fleas and put them into this photomultiplier. And he found that the fleas were giving off photons. And they were sucking up each other's photons. And it seemed like they were using these photons to communicate. Now, when you look at this, you can see those are fish, right? Now, those are thousands of fish in that ball. Okay? So what he did was he took small fish and he found that they were also sucking each other's photons that they were giving off. But what scientists are beginning to believe, you see there's so many thousands of fish in this ball. It's impossible for them to be able to communicate the path that they're swimming to keep that shape. Because you need faster than light communication. There has to be some kind of a field that they're all connected into, so that each one knows exactly its place. And remember I said to you the Wi-Fi of the magnetic field. So basically what they're beginning to discover is that these kind of animals, they are giving energy to each other and exchanging information. And this is something that's very important even for Jama'ah, for example. When you're standing, you have no idea what's happening in that saf. And this is why we're standing shoulder to shoulder. We must be touching so you can have this interaction and this coherence between us. Now, whether women are going to ask, what about us, But maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put more magnetite inside of you and you get it without what we have to go through. So Dr. Popp found that exposing cells to certain frequencies of visible light could repair the communication and coherency in cells. Now the amazing thing is that nur literally means visible light. It means light because Allah calls the moon wal qamaru nur. Something that bounces off light, something you can see. And sucking, they say the sucking of light can be achieved through food or other interventions such as acupuncture and meditation and grounding. Can basically literally improve your light inside of your body. And some of the scientists, they've done work on mindfulness and consciousness. And they say that actually you need a heightened state of consciousness for this repair to take place. Which we're coming back to this aspect of khushu'. So when we look at this, we're beginning to discover that we need light with a high degree of coherency, like biological light. Because this light controls all the processes in the body. It allows all the cells to communicate with each other. Disease depends, or rather, cure from disease depends on us correcting our light. If we can correct our light, we can correct societal light and universal light and health. So what man needs is an intervention of light for his overall well-being. And this is what medicine is starting to say. The medicine of the future is light. This is from scientists. And what I found amazing is that the Prophet ﷺ said was Salah to Nur. Salah is light. And we know it can literally repair the antioxidation in your body from the grounding. And as Dr. Alfred Fritz Pop is saying, light cures light. So Salah is Nur with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it could be the light that our bodies require also. Now we're going to look at something called mind-body meditation. Alright, that means meditation where you're moving the body and then you're also engaging the mind. So a Harvard study found that meditation can rebuild the brain's gray matter in just 8 weeks. It can have a significant effect on gastrointestinal diseases like internal bowel syndrome and irritable bowel disease. It creates a distinct network of anti-aging genes and improves cellular health. Research from UCLA School of Medicine shows that long-term meditators have younger brains with higher connective tissue in the regions of the brain depleted by aging. Your brain ages slower. In fact, they got a number. They said age 50, the brains of the meditators were 7.5 years younger than their non-meditators. And an additional 1 month and 22 days for every year thereafter. What is the power of meditation on your brain? The authors of this study concluded that meditation stimulates growth in neural structures and increases connectivity and efficiency. It buffers the brain against the effects of stress, which results in inflammation. Telomerase activity. Your telomere basically is to do, it's something on the ends of your chromosome, which is to do with the length of your life. And inch-bit age-related brain changes. So a common misconception is that meditation needs a particular seated position and the mind needs to be emptied. In truth, one needs to be breathing calmly and enter into a state of mindfulness. You don't need that yogi sitting on the cold. Meditation is just calming the mind, and connecting yourself to something higher. So this is important, integrated mind-body training is a technique designed by a professor of neuroscience at Texas University. And I found this interesting. He says it involves music in the background while a coach gently adjusts posture and mental imagery in order to bring the mind and body into a state of balance. Now, if you just think of Salah, we have the recitation of the Quran. And then you have the movements of the body. And then you have the Quran, bringing all this imagery of Musa alayhi salam, the Prophet sallallahu, all these things happening inside of you. And this is all in Salah. So, mind-body intervention. So that means you're meditating and you're moving your body, which is what Salah is. You're being mindful and you're moving your body. Can significantly improve attention, working memory, creativity, immune function, emotional regulation, self-control, cognitive and school performance, and healthy habits while reducing stress. Is it any wonder why we should teach our children at 7 and force them by 10? And we think that it's cruel, but we will bend over backwards to take them for tuition and pay for this and pay for that and pay for that. But here's one of the most powerful things, and how many of us take it seriously? Universities of Coventry and Radboud conducted 18 studies involving 846 participants over 11 years. So this is a long study. They found that stress causes the sympathetic nervous system to produce a molecule called nuclear factor kappa B, which causes genes to produce proteins called cytokines. Cytokines is something that causes inflammation in the body. So this causes cancer, aging, and psychiatric disorders. But they found that mind-body interventions inhibit the production of nuclear factor kappa B and cytokines, thus reversing inflammation-related diseases. So literally, this is what can have effect on your body. Now, how spiritual beliefs relate to cancer patients' physical, mental, and social well-being. This is very interesting. This study said patients reporting greater overall religiousness and spirituality also reported better physical health, greater ability to perform their usual daily tasks, and fewer physical symptoms of cancer and treatment. That means when you accepted what's happening to you and you found some spiritual way of dealing with it, it started to actually help you emotionally and physically in curing the disease. You know, and I think of this verse in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاسْتَعِنُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Seek the help of Allah with patience and prayer. وَإِنَّهُ لَكَبِيرَةٌ. This is very difficult. إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. Except for the people that have khushu'. So they said these relationships were particularly strong in patients who experienced greater emotional aspects of religion and spirituality, including a sense of meaning and purpose in life, as well as a connection to a source larger than oneself. Now imagine these are people that don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're making amazing statements. So, but this is one I want us to really take home. This doctor, he says that patients were reported greater cognitive aspects of religion and spirituality, such as the ability to integrate the cancer into their religious or spiritual beliefs, also reported better physical health. That's what we spoke of just now. But look here, he says, however, physical health was not related to behavioral aspects of religion and spirituality, such as church attendance, prayer, or meditation. What he's saying is that when you carry out these things just ritualistically, you pray just for the sake of praying, you go to mosque just for the sake of going to mosque, but you have no connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no mindfulness in your activity, it has no benefit. Now we know that Prophet ﷺ says, when you pray, some of you, the prayer is flung down on your face like a dirty rag. And it says, Ya Allah, destroy this man as he destroyed me. Another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, 1/10, 1/9, 1/8. The Sahaba said, what's that? He said, some of you, you pray and you only get 1/10 the reward. 1/9, 1/8 according to your presence in prayer. So when you pray and it doesn't have an effect on you, or rather you're not connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not mindful, there's no benefit. So now we're going to look, here's another gem from the Sunnah. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةَ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. And the coolness of my eyes have been placed in Salah. Now obviously when we think, well, spiritually, Salah calms us down, right? But science has discovered that antioxidants help to reduce inflammation, which is partly responsible for age-related macular degeneration in the eye. The retina is a highly light and oxygen-rich environment, so it needs a large supply of free radical scavengers. It means it needs antioxidants. And remember, we're getting it from the earth, from the solar. High blood pressure can cause damage to the minuscule blood vessels on your retina, obstructing free blood flow. A diet high in trans fat appears to contribute to macular degeneration by interfering with omega-3 fats in your body. Now remember, we said that high trans fats, they produce free radicals in your body and earthing takes it away. This is how it's benefiting your eye. And excessive sugar in your blood can pull fluid from the lens of your eye, affecting your ability to focus. And it can damage the blood vessels in your retina, also obstructing blood flow. And we know earthing can bring balance to your sugar levels. So, وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةَ عَيْنِي is not only spiritual, there's physical benefits for the eye as well. So lastly, we're going to look, remember we did the vagus nerve. It's the longest of the cranial nerves, which starting from the brain and passes the ear and passes the throat and down to all the vital organs of your body. As you can see, the yellow thing there, that's your vagus nerve, going through all the parts of your of your body and controls all the vital organs and processes in your body. And basically, the ones I highlighted in red, I think, are related to Salah. And so we looked at 33 ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. Number one, cold water on the face. And we said, Miftahu salati al-wudu. The key to Salah is wudu. Singing or chanting. Okay, recitation of the Quran. They said yoga, which is now mindful movement. And we know we move in Salah till each of the body parts come to their rest. You know, we say up, down. What's it? Up, down, kiss the ground, back to down. You know, some people pray Salah like that. The Prophet ﷺ said, why is it that some of you look around like foxes and peck like roosters? You know, just up, down, up, down. You'll not be getting any benefit from the Salah. Meditation, positive social relationships. Everybody knows you go to mosque, you get your mosque partners, and everybody knows each other's health and whatever is happening to each other. You develop deep social relationships. This one, breathe deeply and slowly, affects the vagus nerve. And ever wondered why the Prophet ﷺ said, don't run to Salah? You know, you would think, let's run to Salah because we're missing the Salah. But the Prophet ﷺ says, come calmly to Salah. Because it's for your benefit. When you run, you're going to cause yourself harm. Allah doesn't need your Salah. You need the Salah. Speaking and laughter. So we don't laugh in Salah, but speaking is part of the recitation. Prayer itself, they say prayer with mindfulness. PEMF is pulsed electromagnetic fields. So we know when you're in Salah, you're grounding yourself. Breathing exercises. Probiotics for your stomach. Exercise. Salah, we've just seen, is beneficial. The movement of your body. Well, massage, fasting, sleeping on your right hand side. Those are things from the Sunnah. Tai Chi is like concentrated movement. It's like a mind-body intervention. Gargling, which is again from wudu. Oxytocin, because when you in the company of people, you feel close to, your body starts to produce oxytocin, which is a buffer against cortisol. Systematic humming. You know, we have to recite the Quran in a melodious tone. Serotonin, when you come into an environment where you're feeling happy and comfortable, your body starts to produce serotonin. You know, we'll skip some of those. We'll come to orexin, which is the sleep-wake hormone, and we know our clock is setting itself now, waking and sleeping. All right, according to the Salah. Your hunger hormones, we're eating also. You'll see our times of even eating are corresponding to Salah times, and obviously your circadian rhythm. So, just before I end, let me just take these verses from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, He says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Indeed, successful are the believers. Who? الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those who have this khushu in their prayer. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. And these who from bad speech, they turn away. Before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning anything, He's bringing to your attention this tongue. Because this thing affects the balance on the earth. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. Imagine even before zakah, Allah is saying, watch how you're speaking. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. Those who do zakah. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ. And those who guard their private parts, except from those who Allah has made halal for them. Then Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَعُونَ. And those who take care of their trusts and their covenants. And trusts are your family, your body is an amana, your deen is an amana, your word, the way you do business, those are all parts of your trust. So Allah is saying to us, if you want to be a successful believer, you have to have khushu' in your salah, and then you have to watch the way you behave. And then look at it. So these 10 verses, the Prophet ﷺ said, these 10 verses will describe the believers for you and show you what you need to do to get yourself to Jannah. Because now after Allah says, and those who guard their trusts and their oaths, their covenants, where does Allah go back to? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. So see, in the first one, Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. In each of their salah, they have khushu'. And now Allah is saying, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ. And those who guard all their prayers. It has to be all 5. But beautiful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started it with salah and ended it with salah. He says, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ. These are the ones that will inherit. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسِ. What will they inherit? Al-Firdaus. هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. And they will abide therein forever. So this is the importance of salah. Inshallah, the next time we meet, we will discuss now the spiritual dimensions of salah from Ibn al-Qayyim. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.